Hello, everyone. Hi, thanks for joining from all the parts of the world, and great to have you all here. So my name is Ivan Turasov, and I'm a sales engineer at the Things Industries. And today with me, I have Rish, our head of business development, who's going to be helping me with the webinar and looking at the comments also that you guys might drop. So feel free to ask any questions throughout the session, and we'll make sure to address them at some point. Rish, you want to say hi?
Right. Hey, hello everyone. Good to be here. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this webinar. It's something that is certainly very interesting, and I hope people can use it in their IoT projects, LoRaWAN projects. So yeah, looking forward to this. And as always, if any questions, feel free to post it, and I will pass it on to Ivan.
Great. Thanks a lot, Rish. So today, this webinar is dedicated to LoRaWAN networks at scale and device lifecycle and device fleet management at scale. So for that, we have invited Nick Giles, a chief product officer at Daizy. Nick, or maybe a word to you.
Hi, thanks, Ivan. Nice to be here. So yes, my name's Nick Giles, Chief Product Officer at Daizy. Daizy is a platform for managing enterprise IoT projects at scale. So from the design of the project through the installation, deployment, configuration, in-life management, so the whole end-to-end of the device lifecycle. So used by a number of different enterprises, and we'll show you some examples through the course of the webinar. Please feel free to ask any questions as we go, and we'll try and make this as interactive as possible.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Nick. So before we dive in Daizy and all the functionality that we're going to look at today, I would like to just define the context of our discussion a little bit. I'm pretty sure most of you guys are familiar with what LoRaWAN is and what the Things Industries does, but I would still like to cover it for people who are new, or it's always nice to reiterate a few things. So I have a few slides for that. All right, so oops, yes. Yes, so we at the Things Industries, we provide the industry-leading implementation of a LoRaWAN network server that's at heart of every LoRaWAN network. And we help our customers to build scalable and resilient solutions based on LoRaWAN that bring value without having the burden of getting through the complicated LoRaWAN technology. So we also host the biggest an industry leading conference dedicated to LoRaWAN. So Daizy will also be there, and make sure to get your tickets. And I hope and I invite you all to visit us in Amsterdam. So be very happy to see you. So speaking a little bit about LoRaWAN in general, so this is what the typical topology of a LoRaWAN network looks like. End to end, it has a few, let's say, levels and stages at which different stakeholders take place. So it starts with devices. It can be any kinds of sensors, and they communicate with the gateways over LoRaWAN, which provides an extended range up to 15 kilometers, and it's a very battery efficient radio technology. So it makes sure that your devices stay without changing the battery for years and years. Now, at the heart of every LoRaWAN network, as I said, is network server. So this is where we come in. And on top of that, there can be integrations for visualizing data or gateway and device fleet management, which we are going to touch upon later today. So at heart is the Things stack. That's our main offering. And this picture, many of you might have seen a lot already. So it's a microservice-based architecture, and it's completely designed for scalability and resilience to handle hundreds of thousands LoRaWAN devices and horizontal scaling easily. And what I'd like to point out today also is that we've always had some opportunities for monitoring your LoRaWAN network on the network level, so all the radio statistics, all the message statistics. And it has been possible through events and other ways. But now we have announced, and we're going to be releasing very soon, in addition to our stack, which is called the Network Operations Center, or NOC. So that's an additional service that goes with the ThinkStack Cloud or Enterprise always, with which you will be able to take a deep insight in the statistics of gateways, of devices, of applications, and to make sure that your network is deployed and fine-tuned to get the most performance out of it. So that's kind of a big thing that's coming up, and it's already being released in a few weeks. So I hope some of you will find it insightful. So thinking of now the use case, not even from the stack, the technology stack perspective. So what a typical LoRaWAN use case looks like. It consists of, as I said, the end devices, and these can be many different vendors, many different payload formats that serve a specific use case. That's one level of complexity, managing these devices. Now we have the gateways that collect the messages from these devices. We have the stack, and we have an application level integration, for example, Daizy. Now, this looks pretty straightforward and simple, but the problems come in when we are talking about the scale. So LoRaWAN, over the past few years, has developed itself into a technology where people are already comfortable not just getting to know what it is, but understanding how to scale it and how to do deployments on the magnitude of hundreds of thousands of devices. So this is a typical number of devices in a commercial deployment nowadays. So introducing scale also gets a new set of problems that appear on various levels. So on the network level, the problems might be how to make sure that the network server handles this huge amount of messages and manages the devices on the radio and on the MAC level such that they optimize their battery life and they communicate, minimizing the losses of the messages and things like that. So this is resolved with the ThinkStack. As I said, our design has the scale in mind, so it easily handles the huge deployments at this level. But when we talk about the application level, now think about deploying all these hundreds of thousands of devices. You not only want to deploy them and make sure that they work, but you also want to make sense of your deployment. You want to see where these devices, which room they are, when do they have to be deployed in the future, or maybe how to make sure that people know that they have to be undeployed. So this is where Daizy comes in. At this point, I'll hand over to Nick, and he will explain to you how to make scalable deployments efficient on the application layer of the LoRaWAN networks. So Nick, to you.
So I've got a couple of slides just to explain a little bit about where Daizy sits in terms of that architecture, and then we'll go in and actually show that within the platform. So in terms of what I wanted to cover, really looking at the challenges of scale. What changes when you go from deploying 50 devices in a trial to deploying 10,000 or 50,000 devices, and what are the scaling issues and challenges that appear at that point. Looking a little bit about how the tool set within Daizy addresses some of those challenges, and then, as I say, we'll go in, we'll show the portal. I've got a short video that shows our mobile app, and hopefully we've got plenty of times for questions and follow up. So the one thing we saw when we started Daizy, my background is in mobile device management on behalf of wireless network operators. We've been doing that for sort of 20 odd years. We started looking at IoT about 4 years ago. And what we realized is there's a missing piece in the jigsaw, really, of what becomes quite a complex solution, as Ivan was just kind of demonstrating with device, gateway, the network server, the data, orchestration, and then the application. And there wasn't really any tools out there that kind of take the IT service management functions that are typical for managing smartphones or desktops or servers, and boiling those down to something that would work on a very low cost, low power device at really large scale. So that's what we set out to build with Daizy. So the kind of things that we're really addressing really are, as you scale your project, the positioning of, is your stock of equipment in the right place? If you're deploying 1,000 devices across, a series of locations, is the equipment in the right place? Do I have the right staff training? And actually, a lot of our tools make it really simple to deploy, without huge sort of training complexity. And how can I make it really simple for anyone to both install devices, but also consume the data that the devices are producing? One of the challenges really is around this idea of traceability, which is, where is that device? Can I trust that installer has put that particular device EUI in the position that I expected it to be? Can I trust the data that device is providing me? So having that really clear view of that is really important. The metadata around the assets, if you wanted to create a digital twin, and I'll show you this in the platform, there's a bunch of attributes that you probably need to know about the asset beyond just the sensing data that's being provided. And then secure enrollment and trust. These devices, and LoRaWAN has this security is inherent in the design of LoRaWAN, as long as you look after your keys and making sure that you are enrolling the devices in a secure way, either yourself or through hardware partners or distribution channels that are providing those devices, so that there's no risk that those keys have been emailed around and got lost somewhere. Configuration management is a classic IT service management function. How should this asset be configured at this position in a project? So that at scale becomes quite a complex issue, and moving devices through, during their life cycle, you might deploy them on a project, you might recall them, you might push them out somewhere else, making sure that configuration remains consistent throughout that life cycle. And as part of that life cycle, understanding, is the device continuing to communicate? Has it stopped talking? Is the battery low? Do I need to go out and swap batteries? Who owns the device? Where is it? And the environmental governance around recalling the device at end of life and ensuring we're sort of responsibly disposing of it as well is key. So all of these challenges, as we scale up, just sort of amplify the complexity of the project. So what we've done with Daizy is build essentially an orchestration layer. We sit between the device and the network and the application. So we don't get outside of that. We don't manufacture devices. We don't sell devices. We partner with network providers such as Things Industries to make sure that we've got the ability to connect these devices at massive scale. And then we handle the orchestration and the management of the device and the data, delivering it into your business applications, whether that's existing business applications where you're looking to use IoT as a trigger, or whether it's new applications that are being built on top of this technology. So starting at the left-hand side, device support, we take a very open and agnostic approach to devices. So we have about 250 or so device types supported today. And the important thing with our device catalog is this concept of a universal sensor metric. So if the device is sending temperature and humidity data, that's going to look the same to your application, regardless of whether that device has come from any particular vendor. It shouldn't make any difference. So that really allows you to mix and match hardware, and also in the future support new devices without any additional work on your application. If the device isn't in our catalog, any Daizy customer can request a device to be added. Normally we'll add that within 5 days into the catalog, and we're adding between 5 and 10 devices a week at the moment based on customer requirements. We're also from the perspective of device support across a number of different network technologies. So we're talking about LoRaWAN today, but we do the same thing for NB-IoT, LTE-M, Sigfox, generic IP devices, as well as local protocol conversions. So, for example, in energy metering, you might be using Modbus or M-Bus, or you might have a Bluetooth low energy mesh or something like that. All of those devices can be included within the project. And the key announcement we're making today is that we now have just launched, literally today, the native integration with the Things stack. So as a Daizy customer, and if anyone on the call today is an existing Daizy user, feel free to follow along. You can go into your organization, you can choose Things Industries and configure full device lifecycle management of your Things stack organization. So it does mean that you can mix and match connectivity. You might have legacy projects on one technology, you might be moving into LoRaWAN, you can combine all that together. The process for the users is exactly the same. So lifecycle management is around the design, the installation, and the in-life management of the device. So everything from making sure that device and that network subscription is maintained through the life cycle, through to the configuration, and ultimately the end of life disposal for that device. We then have a data pipeline. So Daizy ingests data. Just to talk a little bit about our architecture, we're entirely cloud-based, and this is predominantly a serverless pipeline, which means we've got elastic scaling. Clearly, when the Things stack is horizontally scaled to hundreds of thousands or millions of devices, we need a matching architecture. So we're able to ingest high volumes of data from a range of different sources. We decode them using the payload decoders that we build ourselves. We contextualize it. You get a lot of additional metadata about the context of the device based on its position in the Daizy project. So we deliver that information. We configure the device or control the device via downlinks, and then we map all the data to these universal sensing metrics. You can subscribe to that data as streaming in the same way with Things stack, webhook, MQTT, all the usual kind of protocols that you would use for streaming message data. But we also have publishers, so you can publish from our time series repository that lives within your Daizy tenancy. You can publish to common data analytics platforms, whether that's Azure or any of those platforms. So any application built on Daizy instantly is supported. You can take any of these 250 device types out of the box, switch them on, and they'll present the data in that standard format to your application. The metadata means you can use that to create digital twins very effectively. And we have a low-code framework within the platform, because quite often businesses already have a system that's expecting data in a certain shape or in a certain form. You can transform that data on the fly within Daizy as well. So it becomes that adaptation layer that makes it really easy to plug IoT data into your existing business applications. So with that, I'll just go in and show a demo. Obviously, Rish, if there's any questions coming up, please feel free to interrupt as we go. So I mentioned the native integration. This is the integration guide hosted on Things Industries. We'll put a link to this in the chat. As I mentioned, any Daizy customer that wants to follow on along and try this can do so now using this guide. Essentially, there's a new setup screen, or if you go into your LoRa settings for your organization, select the Things Industries. You can then select either your cloud tenancy or your full URL if you've got your own hosted instance. So we start with the device catalog. Every organization in Daizy, and just to talk a little bit about the topology of this, it essentially maps to the Things stack. So Within the things stack tenancy, you've got organizations and you've got applications. Within your Daizy account, you have organizations and projects. And the organization is the thing that controls the device inventory and all of the data and security and user roles and so on. So you can curate a list of devices that are applicable to your organization. If you want to add any new devices, there's a very simple search, and this is where the universal sensing metrics become really valuable, because I can immediately, for example, if I'm looking for a CO2 device, I can look in here, and if there's one I want to find out more about, that links to the page. You can get to this publicly. This is on Daizy.io, so you can find a bit more information about the device, and importantly, what data is it going to provide through sensing metrics. Once you add a device to your catalog, you're then able to enroll devices. And I mentioned about the secure enrollment. If you're purchasing devices through the Connected Things store, for example, then those devices will be automatically enrolled in the Daizy platform. So all of that passporting of the app key, the app UI, join UI, and so on is secured. So the concept really of Daizy is about applying devices to a geography. So for any organization and any project, you would set up the geography of your project. Normally this ends up being buildings and places within buildings. Sometimes it's, if it's a smart place, it might be, coordinates on a map. We have some customers where this is just a list of references in their CRM system, and it's tied to end customers. It's entirely up to you how you manage your geography of your project. And you can synchronize this via API from your own systems. You've probably already got a source of truth for your project geography. One of the important elements of this hierarchy is the ability to add metadata that really drives this concept of a digital twin. And when I talk about digital twins, that's not, often people think of some sophisticated kind of, piece of infrastructure, a 3D model or something. What we're saying here is essentially a smart asset. So if you've got a particular piece of equipment or a particular place where you want to capture information and maintain a real-time state that matches that environment, then that's what the digital twin is going to give you. There's a very basic example here. I've got a recycling bin. So there's a couple of things about a digital twin that are going to be important. One is having a reference for it that is meaningful in your system. So in this case, there's a container ID for this particular bin container. Fixed attributes about that asset. So the digital twin is a combination of the fixed features of the equipment or the asset, along with the sensor data that is then provided in real time. So in this case, the bin sensor is going to tell you how far to the top of the waste pile at the moment, but you need to know how deep the bin is to know the percentage of how full the bin is. So in this case, bin height is there in centimeters and waste type, and this is all very easily editable. So you can manage all of that information within Daizy. That information is then provided along with the data coming from the devices, so you can really keep these high fidelity digital assets and smart assets in real time. So the principle here really is just to add devices to a project. So if I want to add, let's say we're going to put a temperature sensor in this fridge here, I can just go through my catalog. I'm going to use a LED device, and in this case, I want it to communicate every 15 minutes because that's an interval I'm interested in monitoring. That's now created. That's specified that device in my project. Now at this point, I'm not tying device EUIs or any kind of specific asset to this equipment, to this location. I'm just saying I want one of these devices. What I can then do is create tasks, and tasks allow me to then assign the installation of that device to someone, make sure they've got the stock, and that they can go to site and do that. And to do that, they use the Daizy mobile app. So the mobile app is the place where your field service team, the people that are doing the installation, this is where they interact with the Daizy platform. So it starts with my home screen being essentially an inbox of tasks. We can see here we've got installation tasks, repair tasks. I can view my tasks on a map, so if I need to plan my day, I can do that here. When I select a task, it's going to show me what equipment I'm going to need. I can also create tasks here for others. So if I'm on a site and I want to create a battery replacement task or something, I can do that here. When I click into the task, it's going to show me a bit more detail. In this case, this task, I've got to install the device on a central pillar 3 meters off the ground. It's detected that I'm not at the location, so I can then launch my navigation to go and actually get to where I need to get to make sure I'm in the right place. So it's going to confirm I'm installing the device in the correct location to that device audit piece. Show me what device type I need for this installation. And this now allows me to identify which device I'm going to use. So we use the camera phone, scan the barcode on the device, and that's going to find it in your inventory. And you can see it's identified the device. And it's confirming that the message frequency is 15 minutes. So it's confirming how this device is going to get configured. This is the point we then enroll that device into the things stack. We attach it to its position in the Daizy project, and we queue up any downlink for that configuration. So all of the steps you would normally have to manually go through are automated. And you can see we've got a green dot there to say that we've received a message from that device. It's joined and it's now working. So it's a really simple wizard-driven process for a novice installer. And we found very early on as we were doing this that the kind of people that are in the places you want to put devices are not necessarily your IT teams. You want anybody with a smartphone to be able to install a device. And we have some customers that are literally just shipping these things out through the mail to somebody to then scan and install in their location. The advantage then of that device being installed into the project is when you come to consume the data. So this is an example of an application that is built on top of Daizy. So we have an application SDK that allows you to build apps on top, query the data that's in the time series data lake, and to build whatever business logic and dashboard you want on top. In this case, this particular application is doing water health monitoring. So it's monitoring for Legionella risk. All of this data, this hierarchy here, it reflects what was previously in the project design. So all of that data is automatically applied to the to the data set. So you can see here that it's fully contextualized data, very traceable. We know exactly where that device is. So it's very easy to build apps on top without having to do a lot of wiring of additional data on top to create these sorts of experiences. So that was a very quick run through. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a feel for the kind of tools that Daizy's providing. Rish, is there any questions at this point?
Yes, great. Oh, that was a really interesting walkthrough. I think there were certain things that even I think missed when I was going through it. So yeah, thanks for covering it in detail, and also doing a demo. Doing a demo is always tricky, but now this was really good. So I also have a few questions as well, but I'm going to take first a question from Al. So Al has a question: how do you handle sensors with varying temperature and humidity accuracy? So he wants to feed this accuracy to the business application, and how does Daizy handles this?
Yeah, so we have within each sensing metric we have a schema that defines the precision, the number of decimal places of temperature or whatever that is going to be included, along with the units if it's not SI units. So that sensing metric is a complete and usable sort of set of information that includes the accuracy. Okay, right.
If you guys have any question or you want to know anything about Daizy, feel free to post it in the chat, and I will take it up. So I have a couple of points as well. So looking at this, like, who would you say would be an ideal user for Daizy? Would it be like the end customer, or do you see this would be more of interest to, let's say, system integrators or resellers? How do you see this? Like, who would be your target like audience?
So I think we find a lot of solution providers and system integrators, so people that are already deploying systems into enterprises and who want to then extend that capability into IoT. Daizy creates a really quick, fast time to market to be able to do that. So I think we do have quite a few end customers, anything from housing associations through to end user commercial owners of buildings, or we do have a number of end users. The key thing, I think, with any successful IoT project is understanding that it's not about deploying IoT, it's about figuring out what the outcome in your business process is, and being capable of integrating the data into your enterprise, into your existing systems that you're using. And that's what we're trying to do, is make it really easy to do that.
Yeah. I think that's also one thing which is very much in sync with our offering is, so we always say, we have the thing stack, and most of our like effort is on lowering the cost of ownership for the solution. And this is a very broad term that is used quite a lot in the industry, but actually, like, this is how I am also seeing this now, that people typically start with 50, 100 devices, and then they have a project of 1,000, 10,000, but there isn't really anything that they have in order to manage these devices. How would that go? And this entire operation can actually break the entire project financially, for instance. So in this case, I see, this is something that really gives a lot of, makes it quite easy, keeping also the overall cost low. So that's really cool.
It always comes down to the question of, how much can I scale Microsoft Excel before I need to move into something else? And that's the challenge. We see a lot of interest from organizations that have successfully deployed their first project, and then they move on to their second one. And in the world of sort of vertically integrated solutions, suddenly they've got a second cloud platform, maybe even a second network, and having to then manage two sets of devices. In fact, we've got examples with local government where they've got 8 or 10 different use cases, all from different vendors, and none of the data follows a common taxonomy, so you can't then recombine that into useful new ways. Quite often you'll put a device in for one reason and then think, actually, I can use that for something else. We have customers deploying temperature sensors as part of a zero carbon retrofit, but actually once you've got that in there and you've got temperature and humidity, you can do damp and mold, you can do social care, you can do all sorts of other use cases with that data. And if you've got these separate projects that are sort of to some extent siloed, that makes life much more difficult.
Indeed. Great. So there's a question from Pedro, and I was also expecting someone to ask this question. So you talked about Daizy, and you talked about the end devices. So naturally, the inclination is there any plans on adding support for gateways? Will there be a possibility to manage gateways the same way we are able to manage devices?
Yes. So we, if you buy a gateway today and you buy it through the Connected Things store, it will be pre-configured. It will work on Daizy. We are in the next couple of months adding in the support so you can actually view that gateway within Daizy. You'll get the alerts if the gateway goes offline. So the same kind of lifecycle alerting that you get for devices. Our plan is to get to the point where you can enroll gateways in Daizy and they would automatically get enrolled in the thing stack. The reason we're not quite there yet is there's always a bit of wrangling with a gateway. Sometimes you've got to put certificates on it, you've got to configure your endpoints, you've got to get a terminal window up and SSH into it. And actually making a consistent experience, can be a challenge, which is why, at the moment, generally having that kind of done as a managed service, makes quite a lot of sense. But yes, our plan is absolutely that the gateways are managed in the same way, and you'll see those additional functions coming into the platform through the rest of this year.
Right. Well, that's exciting, because then you just have one place where you can manage all your hardware, let's say, and devices and gateways, and then makes it, yeah, again, quite easy. So there's a lot of times we see that, you have one, let's say, system integrator or the end customer that understands LoRaWAN, but the team that actually has to go and install devices, they have no clue about LoRaWAN. Their job is just to go and install sensors. So you mentioned a bit about this app. Can you maybe describe a little bit more, and how or what sort of things can it do with this mobile app, like the app for the installers?
Yeah, so any device that's in your inventory, but can be identified usually by a barcode on it, or if you've got your own asset label on it, you'll be able to identify that device. So you can, what I showed in that video was the tasking, where we've sent somebody out to site to do a particular thing, whether it's in that case, an installation, or it could be a battery swap, or recall the device, or swap for a new device. But you can also just do ad hoc diagnostics. So if an alert goes off to say that we've lost contact with that device, somebody visits the site, scans the barcode, you've got an immediate visibility of the current live message thread. As messages are being uplinked from that device, you'll see that within the mobile app. You can see if we've got any kind of indication around signal, that's actually going to be something that you can see it in the portal. You can't see it in the app yet, but we're putting that into the app, so you've got real-time diagnostics. We're also looking at how we would support some of them, the network testers and so on, so that as you're out surveying, and almost what I showed on the web portal, actually doing that in the app as well. So as you create your locations, being able to capture, do I have a gateway in range? Do I need to enhance my network coverage, and so on? So that's on the roadmap for the app. But right now you've got that full diagnostic of any device to see what's going on with it, and to just interrogate and understand all of its information.
Yeah, this is also extremely important, because not everything goes according to the plan. You think, you might have some signal there, you might have some issues there, but now with this you're able to even diagnose and give access to the people who are actually installing it. I had another question on this. So is this service, so you mentioned Daizy is a cloud-based service, so is this available, which all regions? Can people in US use it? Can people in Australia, how would that work?
Yeah, so at the moment it's hosted in the EU. It's hosted in Amazon Web Services. We will be rolling out other instances around the world, but at the moment the key thing is making sure that your network server is local. LoRa's sensitive to the round trip time to and from the device to the server, and because we're queuing up downlinks at the server, we don't necessarily need to be in the same region as the end device, other than from a data residency point of view. So we will be deploying to other areas. You can also request Daizy to be configured with zero data retention. So if you do have data residency concerns with having that data in the EU, we pick the EU because it's got the strongest data safeguards at the moment. But you can certainly configure in that way as well. It is cloud-based. There's no on-prem version, and the reality is we're using the fact that these hyperscalers like Amazon give us this enormous headroom. Everything is based on serverless technology, so we can support tens of thousands of simultaneous device connections very easily, which is why it is it's a cloud offering rather than something that you could run in a data center.
Right. So if you have any other questions or anything, feel free to post it. I can pick it up. And Nick, maybe can you maybe comment or give an indication on how does the commercials work for Daizy? How would people, so for the ThinkStack Cloud, people are paying for the number of devices that they have on their instance. How would that relate with Daizy?
Yeah, it's basically the same. So we have an annual device charge. It's £3.60 in UK money. So per year, so that's 30 pence a month for the device license. You have the option to actually purchase ThinkStack Cloud connectivity through Daizy, so you can bundle those two things together, and that means that they run synchronously to each other, and there's essentially zero configuration. It just automatically, essentially your organization in Daizy maps to an organization in our ThinkStack tenancy. If you've got your own ThingStack instance, I showed that screen where you just configure to point those two, to join those two together, and then you can buy your device licenses and maintain your ThingStack subscriptions separately. But it's essentially the same model. We have a number of different options in terms of if you want longer data retention, or if you want to use some of it. We've got some query APIs, for example, on our application SDK, which add, so for example, the application SDK adds another 10 pence per month to the device, and that gives you a REST API to query all the device history. It gives you the ability to write data back to your data lake within Daizy, so you can run a little bit of plug-in sort of business logic to say, okay, when a common scenario is actually I need to aggregate the last week's worth of messages because I'm looking at a moving average. It allows you to do those kind of calculations actually hosted within the Daizy cloud, and then write that data back into your data lake. So there's a couple of additional options, but essentially, yeah, it's £3.60 a year per device.
Yeah, no, this was really good, and I like that all these things that you're mentioning. These are the things that people actually run into when they are scaling up, and now there is a really good option to get started with Daizy. So I think we are almost coming to the end of the session. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post it. I think we already posted the getting started link with Daizy, so if anyone wants to see how it all works you can go to the documentation link. Do we have anything else that we want to mention, or I think that's maybe some closing remarks from you, Nick?
So I think, for what we're really excited about with this integration with ThingStack is, LoRaWAN's in a really interesting position because it got a bit of a head start, and if you see the breadth of devices that are supported today, I think over half the devices in the Daizy catalog are LoRaWAN devices, and it's really the best of both worlds. If you want to run a private network and you need to guarantee coverage in a particular location, you can. If you want to use a public network, we're increasingly seeing more and more public, national and actually now international, with Unibiz, for example, purchasing Sigfox. We're going to see LoRa there, and the fact that for us, the ThingStack providing that packet broker, so you can very easily create these hybrid public-private networks, I think is really going to be important over the next couple of years. So that's why I think we're really excited to be working with Rish and the team and getting that fully sort of embedded and integrated. So yeah, we're really positive and really excited about working together.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Nick, for this really insightful session. I hope it was useful, and we can always refer back to this webinar. This will be available on our YouTube channel. Last, I think I would like to thank Nick and Ivan for being here and providing their valuable insight. Anyone has any questions, you can post them, or you can reach out to us, info@thetingsindustries.com, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Last but not the least, we have the Things Conference coming up in September, so I hope you guys have that blocked in your calendar. It's 22nd, 23rd of September in Amsterdam, physical conference, so make sure to check it out. Nick will be there with Daizy, and you also can see how does it work in practice, and also if you have anything more that you would like to know, you can do that. Plus, we'll have a lot of other partners from the ecosystem, so make sure to check it out. I think that's it from this webinar. So thanks everyone. I hope you enjoy the day and your evening, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was lovely to have you, Nick.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers.
All right, great. Cheers.